appreciate that. So, thank you for the intro there, Patrick. That was brings a little tear to my eye there. But anyway, hey guys, want to welcome you guys here day after Thanksgiving. I'm sure many other things you could be doing, but I'm glad you're spending a little time here with us. So I got a brief little presentation I want to take you through that's going to help you sort of either polish up your existing pitch, or maybe if you haven't started with your pitch activities, it'll give you some ideas to think about. But before we do that, if we could just maybe go around the horn, each of you guys, I know you guys know one another, but if you could introduce yourselves and just give me a really, really brief description of your business and or your proposed business, whichever one applies. So, Don, why don't you go first, please?
Okay, so my business, do you want like the short-term and long-term goals?
I guess give me the short term, please.
Short term, so with this whole program, I'm trying to build a glove company. And then with the glove company, in like I guess like at the same time I'm building the social media platform to I guess have a platform where I guess not only combat sports athletes, but just people in general can I guess learn some like mental health things that goes along with like athletics, and I'm tying those two in together. And then long term, after I'm done fighting, after I'm done nursing, I want to work on building like a youth academy that encompasses everything I know, like financial literacy, combat sports, the martial arts mantra, and just everything to like develop like a healthy youth. And, yeah.
Okay, love it. Thank you very much, Don. Okay. And then let's see, Cameron, why don't you to go next, please?
All right. Basically, my company is job recruitment or job placement for college athletes, and I want to build it through an app where the athlete's able to connect with the employer, and they're able to swipe through profiles, kind of like a dating app, to see which is the best fit for their company, and just end goal is get athletes hired out of college.
Okay. Got it. Okay, perfect. Thanks, Cameron.
Yes, sir.
And then let's see who Elijah, would you please go next? Oh, did we lose Elijah?
No, sorry, I had to change my mic.
Okay.
Mine is I want to do video editing for small businesses and individuals. That's my short run goal, is to get in contact with all these individuals. Long run is to be able to bring on freelance workers and essentially connect them with clients, and from there I can skim off the top of their work.
Okay, so you'd be a video editing agency?
Yes.
Okay.
What are those clients?
Yep.
Yeah, I have worked with Don before. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, great. All right, so let's get into it. So just real quickly, for the three of you that are here, what's the current state of your pitch? Do you have one, or is it a work in progress, or this is all brand new?
I think we all had one or have one.
Okay, so we're going to looking more at fine tuning then. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, and Patrick, if you would give me the credentials to share my screen, I'm going to share a little PowerPoint. I may.
You should be all set.
All right, thank you, sir. All right, passing of the con. Exactly. There we go. Let's see what we got here. Hey, that didn't work. Hang on, try that again. Oh, hang on a second. My PowerPoint disappeared on me. Let me bring that back up. Okay, let's see. Okay, Patrick, I hope we can see it now. Okay, is that in presentation mode? Okay. All right, so let's keep going. So, as Patrick mentioned, I've done a lot of these coaching sessions for helping entrepreneurs, aspiring entrepreneurs, get their pitch together to share with either people who are potentially are potential investors in businesses or as part of a pitch competition. But before we get into sort of the mechanics of the presentation, there's a couple of mindset things I'd like for you to keep in mind, and that is, question one: are you credible? How do you maintain credibility about who you are in the product or service that you're positioning? So we'll talk about how we maintain that throughout the pitch. What problems are you solving? And then sometimes I may ask you a few questions, and it's going to cause you to think a little bit deeper about what your product or service actually does. What's the problem you're solving? What's the solution you're providing? And then we're going to talk about the market opportunity. Then provide you with some best practices and to give uh, uh, a well thought out and well delivered pitch. So when we talk about the pitch, Patrick was something that you guys are going to have about 5 minutes to deliver. So each of these kind of key concept areas that we'll talk about, the five, think about yourself when you pull your pitch together. You're going to have about a minute for each of these areas. And then what I want to do here is kind of drill down just a little bit on some of these areas to give you a little bit better understanding about how where you might be able to fine tune your existing, or if you've not addressed one of these areas in your current pitch, we might want to give it some thought. So obviously, we want to have a clear identification of the problem. What is it? The problem? What your product or service? What problem does it solve? And so I'm going to go to I'm going to not pick on, but Cameron, are you there? Okay, there you are. I saw the roof of you. I saw the headliner of your car, but I didn't see any Cameron. So now, Cameron, if I understand correctly, you're creating a job placement service for athletes. So
Yes, sir.
do athletes have a special problem getting jobs that the other college students don't?
Mainly just they're way too busy with practice, keeping up with school, and then all the other stuff that just comes with the sport that they play. The extra
Mhm.
4 hours, and a lot of college athletes have to work to help provide and help pay for schooling as well. So
Okay.
the all that extra stuff going on that they don't have the time to promote themselves.
So is it fair to say that the problem you're doing is, ultimately you're going to help them find employment, but I think more importantly, you're sort of creating a shortcut for them between college and employment by filling the gap that or the you're filling the gap of time that they don't have to complete a more traditional job search process. Is that a fair
Yes, sir.
statement? Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Good. All right. So you're basically giving the athlete back time, the time that you're creating time for them that they don't have. And then Donna, I want to go back to you. We said that you are creating gloves. Now I'm gonna just caution you. When you said gloves, I automatically thought it was maybe some kind of fashion gloves or cold weather gear. I think when you describe your product, you need to always attach athletic gloves or MMA gloves or whatever the category it is. Because I think if you just say gloves to the normally consuming public, they're going to create all kinds of um, um, guesses about what it specifically is that you do. So keep that in mind. So now what problem is the gloves that you plan to sell? What's the problem that they're resolving on behalf of potential clients?
So the biggest problem within the community in the sport is when you fracture your hand. So you can see my left hand here is perfect normal. Right hand here is a fracture. like it's called a boxer's fracture. And it occurs like around these two fingers usually. Because these are
Right.
your weakest fingers. And then I'm trying to create a product that will solve or reduce this issue, the occurrence of this issue.
See, so that's very, very compelling. So my name's Don. I create gloves that mix that martial artists use, so they can decrease the probability of having a bone fracture and keeping them out of their chosen uh, uh, form of martial arts, so on and so forth. So leading with something like that, that really will get somebody's interest. Because when you said I do gloves, and I know it was just very casual. I get that. But when I heard gloves, I said like, what kind of gloves? There's 100 different types of gloves. But when you describe the problem, and I'm not saying you use the exact words that I shared, but if you kind of went down that path, I do gloves for um, martial artists who are concerned with the the breaking of or fracturing of bones in their hands that we often see with upscale or advanced martial artists. Does that make sense, Don?
You're basically saying specify more.
Yeah, be a little bit more specific when you describe the problem that you're solving. Because when you said gloves at first for the unknowing public, is that a rain glove? Is that a mechanic's glove? Is that a latex glove? Right. So if you wrap a little bit of a description around what problem the glove solves, that'll pique the interest of your audience. That'll force them to lean in and say, "Oh, wow! First of all, I didn't know that was a problem, and second of all, boy, I'd sure like to hear a little bit more about how he solves or resolves that issue." So then, as we go to the second bullet, that there, the thing we always want to keep asking ourselves is, what business are we really in? So Don, I'll stay with you. I mean, you're in the glove business, but it's more than that. You're in the business of keeping an athlete in top or peak condition by helping them avoid certain injuries. If I heard you correctly, is that a fair statement?
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, so think about it that way. It's just like people who come to me and they say, "Well, I'm in the insurance business." Then I said, "Well, what business are you really in?" And they get a blank stare. And I said, "Well, what does insurance do?" Insurance, if you think about it, it provides peace of mind to the person or the families that have bought it, so that people can go about their daily lives knowing that should something catastrophic or tragic happen, they may not be able to replace the item or good that was stolen, lost, or damaged, but they'll have the financial wherewithal to replace those items that have disappeared. So Elijah, when I talked to you about, you talked about you want to do something in the videography space. So what business is it that you're really in? Do people want videos?
Uh, no, they usually want to market and share their ideas or their
Right.
business.
There you go. There you go. That's the business you're in, helping people to position, shape their ideas, grab attention to their product or their service offering and that sort of thing, and help create some dialogue around what it is that they're offering. So as you go about your pitch, and particularly your beginning in the pitch, this is the way you want to introduce what it is that you do. I'm going to suggest that the first thing you do not do is tell people your name and your company name and where you were founded and all that, because there's a time and place for that. But if you think about it, it's that first 7 to 10 seconds is when you really win over your audience. So by wasting that time with, hey, I'm John Smith, I'm from such and such university, and I love, this, that, the other thing, waste of time. You know, um, a better way is, um, like maybe for Cameron, a great opening statement might be something like, having been a college athlete, I know the problems associated with the athletes making a transition from the campus to the job workforce. unlike um, traditional non-athlete graduates, athletes have not had the time to put into a really well thought out in job search process. My role or my service is going to level the playing field for the college athletes by taking off their plate some of those really time-consuming problems that the typical student doesn't have to deal with. So it's going to be something like that. Does that make sense, Cameron? And
Yes, sir. That does.
Yeah.
That does.
Yeah. Okay, great. Then after you share that, then you say, "My name's Cameron. Here's my company name," and then you go into the balance of your presentation. So now with the next thing we're going to talk about is a target customer. I'm sure all of you guys have watched at least one, maybe two episodes of Shark Tank. And if you recall, one of the questions that they regularly ask people is, "Who is your target customer?" Target customers are extremely important because none of us can be all things to all people. And if you could, you probably wouldn't be on this call right now because you'd be trying to figure out how to spend your billions rather than trying to figure out how to do a pitch document. So when you look to create your target customer, I think Cameron's, out of all the people on the phone here, yours is probably the most focused. But the thing is, you want to think about your target customer in a couple of different ways. You want to figure out demographics, which is age, race, gender, where do people live, income levels, those sorts of things. And then we want to talk about geographics. What geography do you plan to cover? Are you going to cover, maybe the, inside the loop of Houston, inside the Beltway, or maybe the greater Houston area, the 12 counties that surround Houston, or maybe it's the entire state of Texas or the United States, or maybe you have a global offering. And so again, the ability to sort of fine tune who your target audience is, and then most importantly, it's the psychographics or the behaviors of your target audience. So, going back to Don, when we talk about behaviors for your target audience, I'm thinking obviously you narrowed it down dramatically because your product is not for everybody. It's for people who are probably very committed to the practice of martial arts and have a desire to participate at a very, very high level as opposed to just something as at a hobby level. And again, I'm just kind of making this up just based on the things I've heard from you. So when you go about identifying your target customer, let's just say it's going to be people who live in the state of Texas, and and their psychographic is they're very serious about their martial arts. They want to perform at a very high level. Maybe they even participate in regular competitions, or maybe they're moving their way up towards the different levels of the sport, and they want to be engaged with equipment that keeps them at the top of their game and then keeps them injury free. So that might be a great way to describe yours. So that narrows the market. That kicks out for you, Don. Just the kind of the weekend warrior that maybe goes out and does a little martial arts or boxing or 1 or 2 times a month and really hasn't embedded it as a part of who they are. That sort of thing. And then the final things we want to touch on briefly here is in that first, that first slide is.
I have a question
Sure,
pertaining to my product.
Go ahead.
So, my product is really, I guess, niche right now, and it's, I guess, for, I guess, the higher level athletes. But down the line, should I include a more like, I guess, lower level item that would introduce newer athletes and pull another customer pool into my brand?
Yeah, I think that would be smart to do over time after you've gained some success at that. Because I'm not putting words, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it sounds like right now you're focused on kind of the more premium segment of the market. You know, the high end athlete, and then absolutely over time you could enter. You know, as you gain some success there, you have the possibility to offer some you know, some I don't want to say downgraded, but some maybe not as premium products to beginners or the more casual user, but you can still leverage the premium name you've developed within the professional space. And I'm sure, as you well know, you've seen a lot of products do that in sports, athletics, and in other markets. But that's a good question, because I would caution you as to not try to introduce a high end product and a medium or low end product at the same time, because all you're going to do now is just confuse the brands, and then people will just revert to price, you know, to make a decision, as opposed to looking more closely at the quality of the product, which I sense is what you're really trying to get people to do, is focus on the quality and the premium attributes of your product. Okay. And then the final bullet there is the addressable market. Is how are you able to size the market? Meaning, so let's go back to Cameron. I mean, we know we can somewhat accurately predict the number of graduating athletes every year, because we kind of know how many graduates do we have each year, and X percent of those are athletes. And then you might even want to say, narrow it down further and say, well, let's say 12% of all graduates are college athletes, but it's really 4% that are the ones that are extremely time constrained because of the demands of their sport. So instead of it being an addressable market, so in your case, instead of it being an addressable market of 12% of college graduates, maybe it's 4%, because it's really that 4% who maybe have done little or nothing in terms of traditional job search, because of the demands of their sport. So it's going to be really important to help people understand in your audience how big the potential market is. And really, it's a potential market for the niche that you've described. Because one thing I will tell you, if you start with who's your target client, and if you start with things like anyone or everybody, you're going to lose your audience, because everybody knows that or most people know that at this stage of the game, you cannot be all things to all people. So be very, very wary of that. Any questions or comments before we move to the next slide? Okay, we'll keep moving on. And then the next thing we'll talk about is the value proposition. And so the value proposition is, this is the way, in a very succinct way, that we're able to capture how we're different from the other players in the space. So it's basically our statement of differentiation, and why people should want to do business with us. So we'll also talk about how we plan to develop and commercialize the product or the service, and we even talk about the business model, and then of course describe the competitive landscape. So going back, so let's go to Elijah for a second. So when we talk about you talked about a large marketplace for potential customers, small and medium businesses, if I heard you correctly. So now that's a very large group of people, but is there something that you do that's unique to some segment or subsegment of that small to medium-sized business? Is there a way to further narrow down on a niche within that large potential customer base where you can provide a really, really unique value?
Yeah, so for a lot of them, our main goal is working one-on-one with them instead of having to do just an email, send a list. Most editing agencies won't really get back to the people. You sort of send a list of what you want and they pop out whatever's next. I want there to be relations so that the customers will turn into returning customers, so that they keep returning because they know that when they're working one-on-one with the person, they can get all their ideas and everything in.
Okay, that makes sense. So you're going to offer your product offering in such a way. So you said it without saying was that not every small medium business is going to be your ideal client, because you're looking for people who want to have a longer term relationship with their video capture resource, so that we can build a relationship, but more importantly, sort of build a longer term story about their business, and to create better relationships with their customers and clients.
Yes.
Okay, not trying to put words in your mouth. I'm just telling you kind of what I'm hearing as you share that. Okay, and so that's great. So that'll definitely distinguish you, because somebody that comes to you and says, "Hey, I just need somebody to take a couple of 30-second videos that I can do for this upcoming trade show, and then I'm probably not going to have any needs after that." So that's probably not going to be an ideal client for you, because it's very, very transactional as opposed to relationship driven. So I would definitely speak to that in terms of your value proposition. And then what's very, very powerful when you talk about, you're looking to do business with people over a longer term sort of, pardon me, a longer period of time. And then now you develop your business model accordingly. Maybe you price your products, your offerings for differently. Maybe instead of maybe it's by the shoot, maybe you do it by the year, or by the people pay you by the quarter, so they get X bundle of services every quarter for a set price. And then, like I said, maybe totally get out of the business of doing one-off, 2, 3, 4 hour shoots here and there, and that sort of thing. So it's just something to think about.
Yeah, we have it set up to where if you depending on the order of the videos, we give discounts if you order like a big bundle of them
Okay, good.
for the future. Yeah.
Yeah, good. That's very, very powerful. Yeah, yeah. So people can have a good idea of what their costs are going in to doing business with you, as opposed to, showing up every 2 or 3 months or 5 months, whatever it is,
Yes.
unannounced, and trying to get some work done. Right.
We make individual proposals for each person.
Mm-hmm. Okay. But in your proposals, do you focus on doing multiple shoots, or do you do it on just a single one-off project?
It covers the multiple shoots. Usually when we get in contact, we find out what they want and what they're looking for, and then I make the proposal through that. I usually list what they're going to be getting and how much each different service is going to cost. And then I add it up together and add any discounts and or extra fees that would be on there.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, good. Anybody else have any comments on what goes into the value proposition section of the pitch?
I just want to add like a little, I guess like a market share to Cameron, not Cameron, so Elijah. One of like the biggest, I guess, trending things right now is like reels on Instagram. There's a lot of athletes, just like people starting like blogs, things of that nature on Instagram, and where they necessarily don't have the know-how to how to edit and compose the video. That's like a avenue that Elijah could dive into, because a lot of fighters from the gym on that. We're all learning this as we go and doing it by ourselves. And sometimes we don't have the time in the middle of fight camp to promote ourselves. And it's like a good like market to dip into.
Okay. Yeah, that could be a market, or a segment of your market that you might want to look at, or develop. Of course, the things that I would that are important there when you're looking at segments to attack or to be part of, how easy is it to get to the customer and have the sales conversation with them, and then do they have the money to engage in the type of contracts or that you desire to have for your firm. So those are the I do work as a business coach, and people say, "Wow, Austin, there should be a lot of work out there for you." There's a lot of companies that are struggling. Well, guess what? I don't work with struggling companies, because if companies are failing, there's usually a reason, and the reason is usually that they never listen to the advice they got from somebody else. So those aren't necessarily the best clients, at least for my practice. So so definitely good. Thanks for sharing that. But definitely something to think about, Elijah, if that's a market that you want to address with your enterprise. Okay, so moving on, and so the next slide that you want to think about is.
Also, you might want to share one thing.
Sure.
One thing that you all miss, and I think you all, if you look at yourselves, and I know you see, because we spend a lot of time in ourselves, right? But if we were to look at ourselves as a brand and look at who we are, right? The messages that we're doing, right? Like Cameron wants to help athletes. Cameron might just think that that's just a job or something he wants to create, but it's a great message that here's an athlete who cares enough for other athletes that he wants to do something about it, right? Look at Don. He cares so much. He's broken his hand so many times that he wants the people to stop breaking their hands, right? And even Elijah's great messages. I'm here to help people. I'm here to help people's lives. You know, we forget sometimes that we ourselves are a brand. We have a great message of who we are, right? And that's unique to you. No one else has that. That is your personality. You need to make your personality as a part of your brand, right? Because somewhere along the line, someone's going to copy your idea. Someone's going to say, wow, that's a cool idea. Let me see if I can find a way to jump on that. But if you can find a way to individualize who you are in your presentation, it just creates that more, that uniqueness. So don't ever get away from you as the brand. It's such a beautiful thing that you're all doing. So Austin, I'm sorry to interrupt. I just want to keep that out there.
No, that's perfect, because I should have mentioned at the beginning. But so there's a book out there a book out there called "Start with Why" by Simon Sinek, and his thesis is that people don't buy what we do; they buy why we do it. And so that was part of the reason for have you introduce yourself and your idea at the very beginning. Each one of you has a very, very strong why, or as Patrick said, a personal branding reason of why you've chosen the business that you have. Because, like I said, Don can speak to what happens when you break your hand. If you're very competitive in the space and you break your hand. Cameron speaking probably to his experience as the frustration associated with being an athlete, doing something that's great for your school, but then getting cheated at the other end when it comes to finding a career because you didn't have the time to invest in a traditional search. And then and same with Elijah, looking at those businesses who really need this this service, but either don't have the wherewithal of how to provide it cost effectively. That sort of thing, or maybe they've even been burned by some of the charlatans out there. So yes, a good point, Patrick. Thanks for bringing that up, because that's really what it's about. Is if you can bring some that personal empathy to the to why you're doing this, that goes a long ways. Goes further than Google ads, I'll say. Okay, and then in the next slide, what we're going to talk about is our operation management credibility. As we talked about in slide number 1, we want to continue to reinforce our credibility, and this goes right back to what Patrick said. It's why are we doing this, right? What makes us credible? What makes us an authority or semi-authority to speak on this particular product or service that we're all offering? I mean, all of you have good why statements that you can easily bring into these credibility statements, as you described, why you're starting this business and why you're leading the business. But the important things is that, again, as this goes from idea into execution, you've got to be able to describe, what is it that specifically, what are you going to do for the enterprise, and then what are some of the gaps that you would look to fill as you begin to continue to scale the business. So it might be, Don, you may be in charge of just making this up. You might be in charge of product design, but what you need is to really get this thing off the ground is somebody who's got a strong marketing background to create the relationships with either sporting goods stores or other um, um, providers of these martial arts services, and sign them up as distributors or of your product or some combination thereof. So you would speak to here's our current operations model, and the key pieces or key resources that we need to add are the marketing person, maybe a finance person, or maybe somebody who can go out and create joint ventures or alliances with aligned groups or businesses. And then we would absolutely want to talk to sort of, what is the delivery model that you have? And the delivery model is, how are you getting your product or service into the hands of the ultimate consumer? So, pardon me, Cameron, I'm not sure how you planned to create awareness of this this staffing site, but that was definitely something that you would want to describe and give just enough detail at this juncture of the presentation to let people know that you've given it some thought, and most importantly, how it differs a little bit from the other models that are out there. I thought it was kind of interesting that you said it's like a dating site for for college athletes that looking for jobs. So that creates a nice visual in most people's mind about what it is. But that you're bringing together a bunch of people who don't know each other, and you're figuring out a way how to connect them for a specific outcome of benefit to the company as well as to the individual athlete. Any questions or comments on this slide before we move on? Okay, great. And then I think what's going to be really important, particularly when you get in front of any set of either potential investors or people who are looking at maybe helping you to further your idea, is have a good understanding of the finances that are associated with each of these concepts. Because it's very clear to me that each one of these is going to have some amount of when we talk about a startup cost. What is it going to take for you to open the doors? Don, in your case, it's going to be probably some marketing, and definitely you're going to have an inventory of product, so that when the orders start rolling in, that you can fulfill them in a pretty efficient and effective way. Cameron, your business lends itself to what we call the network effect, meaning the more job seekers you have on your site, and the more companies that are looking for your people, the more of them on your site, the more powerful it becomes. As we all know, probably one of the best best examples of the network effect is Facebook. I don't know where they have something like almost 2 billion registered users. So having 2 billion as opposed to 200 million, they're probably 30 to 40 times as valuable with 2 billion members as they were when they had 200 million. So the network effect is simply the more people that are on the platform, the more valuable the platform is for those who participate, the users on either side. So you'll have startup costs, and you'll have some ongoing costs of how do you keep the the business enterprise going. For a couple of you, it's probably just a standard fee for service. But I could see where Cameron, with that platform, it could be a fee for service, as well as it might be free to job seekers, and the employers pay, or vice versa, or some combination thereof. So obviously the pricing decisions that you make for your enterprise are going to be very, very important to share as we talk about the financial understanding, because based on how we price the product or service, that's going to give us some insight as to where our sales and profits will come from. And so that'll be very important to be able to share with anybody that's in the audience listening to this to your presentations. Any questions there before we move on? Okay. And then as we move on, then the next one is helping people get comfortable with your metrics or measurements of success. So how do we ensure that this is going to be that there's long-term viability associated with your concept? So Don, with you and the martial arts gloves, the thing we'd have to help people understand is this kind of a trend or a hobby, or do we think that this concern is got a 15 to 20-year life associated with it?
So with the whole success viability, combat sports is growing because the Olympic is pushing for kickboxing, sambo, and Muay Thai. It's the next Olympic will be. And then also, there's a big brand that not a lot of Americans know about. So we have UFC in the States, right? And that's strictly MMA, mixed martial arts in the octagon. But there's this other brand overseas based out of Singapore. It's called One Championship. And what they include is MMA, but also Muay Thai, kickboxing, and grappling, submission. So there's 4 sports under they have like a cage, but their cage is not an octagon, it's a circle, similar shape, similar format. And the production quality is a lot higher. And they're also now streaming on Amazon Prime specifically. So it's making its way as a mainstream sport, and it's only growing more because a lot of these athletes, a lot of them are retired former athletes of like some form of like basketball, football, soccer, whatever, from at least in America, at least. But overseas, it's a pretty common sport.
Okay, good. So I think that's a great story to share. Is that it's the sports that you're supporting? They're sort of coming out of the shadows of minimal awareness, and now they're taking main stage, being promoted by the Olympics and some of these other entities that you talked about. And so, and maybe you could find another sport that had a similar emergence from just being sort of almost a hobbyist kind of sports to becoming mainstream, and talk about how it grew, and then how did the supplies, I'm sorry, the supplies and the attached sporting goods component, how that grew as the popularity grew. So that's a great example of that you could share with somebody about the viability. Okay. And then of course, people are going to understand what's going to be the profitability and the risk. I mean, a few years ago, NFL football was was the golden goose, right? Then they started to have some challenges with the concussion protocols and some things like that, and so it took a little bit of a dent. So those are the things that you might be able to speak to, is what could hold back this from becoming the next great opportunity. Things you might want to also think about is the potential of maybe potentially creating joint ventures or maybe some partnering opportunities. So going back to you, Don. I mean, right now you're a single brand in a thriving or growing marketplace. But if you were to able to maybe a joint venture with one of the with a tour sponsor or somebody who's supportive of the Olympics, in those particular sports, what could that possibly do for your for creating the awareness and taking your business to the next level of opportunity and scale? Through a partnering or operation or a joint marketing agreement or something along those lines, or a camera, I could see you using the guilt of the colleges that they've beat the what out of these athletes, all for the pride of the university. And maybe there could be instead of it, maybe through the investments or contributions of the colleges, that could create a portal that you can offer to the athletes at no charges. And then the people that support it would be the universities, and then the corporate sponsors that are putting their job openings on the list. Because I think we all know that there's usually something a little bit special about athletes in the workplace in terms of getting things done, and sort of the drive to win. So I think that's what I think makes your platform interesting, to me at least.
Yes,
And
sir.
then,
That's what I
mhm.
plan on doing. Oh,
Go
that's
ahead,
what
go
I plan
please.
on doing
Yeah,
is
no,
charging or paying the schools, having the athletes keep it for free, use the app for free, and then I'll plan on having the companies pay through advertisements and promoting their company through the app.
okay, good. And I think the timing is good because, as we all know, if we've been reading anything about the workforce 2022, there's some severe challenges of getting kind of particularly the younger workers, getting them engaged in the workplaces. And so I do a fair amount of workshops on that particular topic. And so what you're endeavoring to do, that would be something that I would highly recommend to the corporations that sit in my workshops, because I think this is what you're sending a strong message to the workplace that here's what we value. And we think we think our young athletes are valuable, and here's how we're going to treat them a little bit differently, at least as it goes to recruiting. So I think that's very, very powerful, very powerful. Then the other thing then the last bullet there we want to talk about is what might be the potential exit strategy for your business. You might be a sale to an independent third party at a very high multiple based on profitability and risk profitability that you've been able to achieve over the 5, 6, 7, 10 years. You might be thinking about maybe there's a merger opportunity, maybe with I'm making this up, Don, but you're doing gloves, maybe somebody else is doing shorts, and maybe pushing your two companies together to create a more robust offering of products for those sports could be a possibility. And then of course there's always it's a long shot, but there's always the possibility of doing some sort of IPO. And Elijah, no, not Elijah, but Cameron, with you, I mean, I could see your niche agency might be attractive to a monster.com or an Indeed or one of those other sort of general purpose job boards that might see some opportunity in having something a little bit more niche or a little bit more focused. Or it may be another organization that focuses on that same niche market or demographic to find great value in getting the word out through your site. So that could be another opportunity. Okay. And so the last slide here, just a few things to keep in mind as you go to make your pitch. I'm sure you guys are going to be doing these over Zoom, but body language and voice are going to be very, very important as you position your product and sell. People want to see enthusiasm, want to see a smile, and want to see that you're engaged with your product. You're very serious about it. As we talked about, what's the market for your product, and be able to explain why you are the best solution. If not, in some cases, some of you guys might even be the only solution that's attacking this particular demographic or niche market. Build credibility as a founder in a team. So as we talked about earlier, that's really your why. Why are you doing this? I mean, nobody said, hey, I was walking down the street one day and I said, hey, nobody's doing ABC. What I heard from each of you was, hey, I participate in this sport, this business, this hobby, and there's a real problem here, and I'm going to take a shot at trying to solve it. So don't overlook that. That's very, very powerful, because having a very strong why, that's the energy that people look for. This is what keeps getting you out of the bed every morning, and it no longer becomes a job, but it becomes your calling, because it's something that a personal issue you've tackled with for years and years and years, and now you have the opportunity to address the issue. When you give projections, be realistic, because everybody knows you're either going to far surpass whatever you put on the piece of paper, or you're gonna come in way underneath. Nobody ever hits their number, so be realistic when you do project. And then, of course, in terms of delivery, if you have the time, videotape your plan and watch yourself giving it, making sure you've got the right attitude, right uh, eye connection with your audience, and that you're upbeat and positive. On the slide, if you just decide to deliver in a slide presentation, make sure there's a minimal amount of words on the slide, maybe a picture and a few 2 or 3 bullet points, and then have a very strong conversation or explanation of the slide and the key concept, because you want people focusing on you, not on the words that are on your slide. And then in terms of dressing professionally, that should go without saying. I'm not saying wear a tuxedo, because if you're in front of a bunch of maybe I'm not sure who the judges are going to be, but think of who the judges are and just think what they would respond to most favorably in terms of your professional appearance. Okay, well, that's going to wrap it up for what we have today. So we'll take the next few minutes and open up to any questions you may have, or about as you go about conducting, creating your or fine tuning your own pitch. Now, Patrick, there's no way we could have done that good a job where we answered everybody's question.
I think the one thing they're probably going to need to kind of digest this after we recorded this. So I'm going to record it and put it out on YouTube and send you the link so you can review it later. I think one of the things that is going to be really key, and this is something that was talked about, but what you want to have is some continuous message that you begin with, like for your gloves, I'm here to protect you, right? Or with your placement service, I understand your pain, right? Or Elijah, I'll make that perfect cut, right, of your video, and translate that message. You don't have to talk about it every place through your slides, but hint at that message all the way through the slides, so that there's one continuous message. Now, there's a lot of things you're talking about, but that one message that you begin with is translated through the whole thing. So, because think about it like a movie, okay? When you watch a movie, there's like a theme at the beginning, right? They convince you on that theme. And as soon as the story writer gets away from that theme, you get confused, right? You're like, why am I watching this movie? So what you don't want is to jump around in your presentation. You want to have a continuous theme. I'm here to protect you. I understand your pain. We're going to make the perfect cut, some message, and translate that somehow through each slide as you go through, so people understand. Because the story, even though you're pitching, it's a story, it's a message you're getting across, right? And as long as they understand what they're watching, then when they get done to grade, you say, hey, I understood exactly what he said. He was always on message, and boom, give you 100. Good job, right? And that's the one thing I think that's the Austin gave you a beautiful hot fudge sundae. I'm putting that cherry on top, right? That strong message is the cherry on top. I understand what you guys are selling. So that'd be the only thing as my cherry on top, is the only thing I'd add, Austin.
That's great. Yeah, and that's a strong message, to staying focused and keeping it narrow. There'll be a time at a later date when you can talk about the 5 other things that you want to do to expand your enterprise. But right now, it's about staying focused and getting it right and consistency, so that we can get to this, past this first level, let's say first level of investment, get some success, and then pursue expansion growth opportunities.
Great work. Thank you very much, Austin. I appreciate it. I will, do you have a contact email? Would you want to be able to share that? I don't know if you have it on the slide, but if you're willing to
Yeah, I
share it-
don't. Let me hang on. Let me just go to put on my contact information here. I'll put it in the chat room.
Yeah, and I will post this video, and I think if it's okay with you, Austin, if they have any follow-up questions, I'm sure they're not going to be sending you, 24 hours, 7 days a week, but I'm sure, like I always do when I get done, there's always something that comes up, and I think that would be really lovely if you could do that. So
I'm happy to happy to entertain questions that anybody might have, or review their final slide or near final slide decks when we get to that point. Absolutely.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that, Austin. Everyone, thank you for making the time. I appreciate it for you coming out. It's, these are the things, it's like, these are the things that really make the difference. These are the things that change yourself, change the world. It's showing up and doing the work. So thank you so much. Thank you, Austin, again. Thank you, Don. Thank you very much, Cameron, Elijah. I appreciate it. Have a great, if I don't see you, have a great weekend, and take care of yourself, and follow up with me later this week if you have any questions on your presentation, your slides, and we'll talk more about it next week. Thank you again.
Thanks, everybody.
Okay,
Take care.
you.
All
Bye.
right. See.
Thank you.
All right.